Okay, first thing is this RAND document that I shared yesterday in the community tab. This is the closest thing I can find to a source yet. This is weltexpress.info. I know of Die Welt, but I don't know of Weltexpress. They seem quite a big organization, but that doesn't mean they are trustworthy, as we all know. The economic crisis in Germany is the result of a deliberate provocation by the USA. The Americans collapsed the German economy to destroy a competitor. Right, let's get in. War in Ukraine began on February 24th. Since then, the sanctions imposed by EU countries against Russia have started to have a negative effect on European economies. The sanctions boomerang came as a surprise to the federal government, most politicians in the traffic light coalition, and ordinary voters. However, as it recently turned out, these consequences of the anti-Russian sanctions were unexpected only for the Germans. The USA had calculated all the consequences in advance, and, moreover, consciously embarked on the path of weakening the German economy. As early as January 25th, a month before the outbreak of war, Rand Corporation prepared the secret report. Containment of Germany for the United States and the World is the alleged title of this secret report. For the US Secret Services and the US Democratic National Committee, the purpose of this report is very simple. The US is provoking Russia in order to declare it an aggressor and to force Germany to impose suicidal sanctions on the Russians. The aim of US policy is to weaken Germany as much as possible, according to this RAND report. Although Germany remains a country with limited sovereignty, as we well know following the Second World War, the pace of economic development in the EU depends on the state of the German economy. The development of Germany could ultimately make Europe not only a political, but also an economic competitor to the USA, the RAND experts write. That must not happen. The German economy is vulnerable because it relies on unlimited access to cheap Russian energy. A sanctions war provoked against Russia could put an end to this. A disruption in Russian supplies could trigger a systemic crisis that would be devastating for the German economy. According to the RAND report, this is the purpose of the US policy of provocation. Germany is even more vulnerable because the German Green Party is too ideological. According to the report, your spokesman will abandon economic pragmatism in favor of dogma. The Greens will be the war party that could destroy the German economy. The report accurately predicts the impact of sanctions on Russia on the German economy, a loss of 200 to 300 billion euros in 2022 alone. The authors accurately predicted a fall in the euro rate below the dollar rate. They also predicted that German GDP would fall by 3 to 4% per year over the next 5 to 6 years. Most predictions have already come true. Germany is in an economic crisis comparable in scale to the losses suffered by the German economy after the Second World War. We have to realize that Germany has become the victim of a provocation by the United States. The war in Ukraine was used by the Americans to destroy the EU economic engine, devalue the euro, and shut down German industry. The sanctions with which Germany is at war with Russia were only necessary to please the Americans. Annotation: Weltexpress is contacting the RAND Corporation and will continue to pursue the issue. First, number one, does this report even exist? Because, we've all heard of anonymous sources familiar with the document and all this, and I cast doubt upon such references. So, first of all, we have a very questionable foundation upon all of what we've just read is based upon, and yet it's very difficult to argue with what has been said. We can argue whether any experts predicted certain things and whether that has indeed come to pass. It's very difficult given that we don't even have the source material to reference, so we can dismiss that, let's say. But the things that are difficult to dismiss is The impact on Germany, this is pretty much fact. The behavior of the Green Party, well, this is being corroborated by what we're seeing, and I'll get onto an example in just a short moment. Greens being the war party, for instance. The loss of 200, 300 billions we shall see by the end of 2022, but that looks very likely, doesn't it? The deindustrialization we are already seeing. Again, I will show you some more source material, as I've done before, but I'll show you some more now just to illustrate that point. If nothing else, we also know that Germany is the economic powerhouse of Europe, and much of this makes sense, but in a tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist way. You could say that's absolutely ridiculous. I've seen some comments that say, but it would drag the US down as well. Well, maybe, but we don't know. They do have a bit of a cushion, don't they? Their GDP at something like 25 million according to the IMF, whereas compared to very small figures, I think only China comes close at $19 million GDP. I'm quoting off the top of my head from memory from a document I saw this morning on trading economics, I think. But yeah, let's just say that the US could probably better afford and weather such a storm. The Germans will be absolutely devastated by this. And the last thing that struck me like a slap in the face was, wow, if this is true, as I said in my community post, this is almost verbatim what Alexander Mercouris and Alex Christoforou on the Duran have been repeating for a good long time, months so far, that the purpose of NATO is to keep America in, Russia out, and Germany down. Alex Christoforou himself, I know, I could probably find clips to quote him verbatim where he said that the German Green Party are the war party and they're the ones who are wreaking the havoc on that. He has said that. I know that from memory, and I'm sure we could all find clear examples of Alex agreeing here. Did Alex write this article? Maybe, I don't know. But whilst we can't take this as any real fact or anything, it's purely, we can say conjecture at this point in time. It does confirm. We can believe that Rand would write such a report, given their past reports extending Russia, how that predicted many of the things and talked about provoking Russia. So that lends in. There's many other outside factors that bear into this, that lend credibility to certainly this idea that such a report exists and that such a report might say such things. So I'm not really willing to dismiss this at this stage, unless it can indeed be proven to be complete fabrication and false. But indeed, what's written here I find quite disturbingly accurate, if not verbalizing a lot of the things that we have ourselves thought or indeed witnessed at this time. So let's get on to some of this German Green Party news. This is over in Russia today. The Ministry of Economy of Germany commented on the situation after the suspension on Russian gas. Bear with me, you're getting all my notifications. Apologies for that. The head of the German Ministry of Economy, Vice-Chancellor Robert Habeck, commented on the situation after the suspension of Russian gas supplies. Quote, "There is no gas from Russia for a week. Storage facilities continue to fill up after a short rise on the stock exchange. Prices are still high, and very high, but not explosive." RIA Novosti quotes Habeck. He noted that at the moment the German authorities are unable to reduce gas prices. Quote, "It will take a little more time. We will provide companies with any support," Habeck concluded. And earlier Gazprom announced termination of gas supplies, as we know. So this is Robert Habeck. Let me just pause a minute to shut down some of these pesky notifications. There we go. It bugs the hell out of me when I hear it, because I think it's mine when I watch videos. So yeah, let's get in and listen to what Habeck has to say in this baffling interview he gave. Here's the one. You may well have already seen it, but let's have a little looky.
Aber rechnen Sie mit einer Insolvenzwelle am Ende dieses Winters?
Nein, das tue ich nicht. Ich kann mir vorstellen, dass bestimmte Branchen einfach erstmal aufhören zu produzieren. Nicht insolvent werden, aber ich meine, im Moment komme ich nicht mehr dazu, Brötchen einzukaufen. Und
so he's just said, no, I don't expect bankruptcies. I expect them to just stop production for a while. You can almost see the pain in his face as he's trying to get all this bullshit out and try and sell it. He's really struggling. And then he goes into this bizarre analogy. Let's take another. I try not to talk over him. Some people have criticized that. Let's have a little look.
Geschweige denn morgens in Ruhe zu frühstücken. Aber ich weiß aus alter Welt, dass die Brötchen bei Bäckern und die Brötchen in den Discountern ungefähr doppelt so teuer sind. Und wenn die Preise relativ steigen, dann erhöht sich der Abstand. Und dann werden, das sehen wir ja jetzt überall, dass Läden, die darauf angewiesen sind, dass die Menschen Geld ausgeben, Blumenläden, Bioläden, Bäckereien gehören dazu, dass die wirkliche Probleme haben, weil es eine Kaufzurückhaltung gibt. Und dann sind die nicht insolvent, automatisch, aber sie hören vielleicht auf zu verkaufen. Und das,
wenn ich aufhöre zu verkaufen, verdiene ich kein Geld mehr, dann muss ich die Insolvenz anmelden.
Even she's struggling to buy this. She's like, sorry, what? What? There's the economy requires people to spend money. Then there's a reluctance to buy because of the economic conditions. And then he's saying, but you don't have to file bankruptcy immediately. You do it like after 2 months. I think he's making the point that we won't see the impact immediately, but he's not doing a very good job.
2 Monaten, wenn ich es nicht getan habe, habe ich Insolvenz.
Ja, man würde dann insolvent werden, wenn man mit der Arbeit immer größeres Minus macht.
Ja, aber wie wollen Sie denn kein größeres Minus machen, wenn Sie Leute bezahlen, aber nichts mehr verkaufen? Also wie soll man, also ich habe es nicht verstanden.
Ja, ich weise darauf hin, dass es nicht automatisch eine Insolvenzwelle geben muss, aber es kann sein, dass sich bestimmte Geschäfte nicht mehr rentieren und die dann eingestellt werden. Vielleicht werden sie später wieder aufgenommen, das kann ja sein. Also das ist dann ja keine klassische Insolvenz. Aber es kann sein, wenn wir keine Abhilfe schaffen, dass Betriebe, Bäckereien, Handwerksbetriebe, Reinigungsfirmen und so weiter über dieses Jahr dann die wirtschaftliche Betätigung einstellen. Das ist eine Gefahr und der müssen wir begegnen.
Also die sind dann pleite, weil sie nicht mehr arbeiten können, aber melden nicht Insolvenz an. Also ich glaube, den Punkt muss man sich tatsächlich noch mal überlegen. Aber ich habe das Gefühl, die richtige Antwort ist da noch nicht gefallen bei Ihnen.
That is the politest way I've ever heard someone say, you're talking out of your ass. Look at his face. Wow. Yeah. So Germans, again, maybe I'm just not educated enough to understand the high IQ of Habeck and his reasoning and rationale, and obviously his unrivaled knowledge of economy, given that he's from the Ministry of Economy in Germany. I'm lost for words, so let's move on. The Russian ambassador to Canada appreciates calls to keep turbines for Nord Stream. Russian ambassador to Canada called absurd calls to keep turbines for Nord Stream. The calls of the Canadian-Ukrainian Congress to the authorities of the country to expel Russian diplomats and keep the turbines for the Nord Stream gas pipeline are absurd and contrary to the interests of Canadians. This assessment was given by the Russian ambassador to Canada, Oleg Stepanov, in an interview with RIA Novosti. According to the diplomat, the organisation, quote, is trying to privatize Canadian foreign policy, directs it in an irrational direction, which, in my opinion, does not correspond to the national interests of Canada and its people, end quote. Stepanov noted that there is no logic in the organization's slogans, just blind hatred for everything Russian. Here the field of work is no longer diplomats, but specialists in the field of psychiatry, the Russian ambassador summed up. Wow. It talks here. Earlier, Russian President Vladimir Putin called on German Chancellor Olaf Scholz to return the documents for the turbine for the Nord Stream gas pipeline. This is how the head of state reacted to the photo of the German head of cabinet against the background of this specified turbine, recalling that it is Russian property. According to him, the German side does not give anything to Moscow except for general conversations. Empty words, I think they mean. That was a clip from today's live stream. Thank you all that chose to hang out and make it so much fun, and thank you all for your support. Those of you who have taken advantage of the free trial subscription over on foreignagent.tv, just remember that there's the community post where you can share some of your interesting news stories. I'd love to hear that from your part of the world and hopefully feature them in a stream. Always good to chat and discuss and see the other perspectives from across the world. So thank you ever so much for all of your support across all the channels and platforms. Don't forget, of course, you can get your sexy Foreign Agent t-shirts. And I will wrap things up here and see you in the next one. Bye-bye.